It gives me such great pleasure to announce you are officially a Canadian citizen.
For most new Canadians, a citizenship ceremony is a big deal. But for Maria Kartasheva, this is an even bigger deal. When Maria reached out to CBC News over the holidays, she wasn't even sure she was going to get to this point. It's a long and complicated story, so let's go back to the beginning. Maria moved to Ottawa from Russia about 4 years ago. She's been active in politics, and she has a big dog whose name means moose in Russian. She's also no fan of the Putin regime and has protested at the Russian embassy in Ottawa against the invasion of Ukraine. In March 2022, she blogged about the killing of civilians in Bucha. Around the same time, she and her husband Dmitry started their application to become full citizens. Maria didn't realize it, but she was under investigation in Russia for what she blogged. Last spring, she was arrested in absentia in Moscow under a law passed shortly after the invasion in Ukraine, banning spreading what the Kremlin calls false information about the Russian army. When she learned of her arrest, she thought she better tell the immigration department. See, there's a section of the immigration rules that if you're dealing with a foreign criminal charge, you could be denied citizenship if there's a similar law in Canada. We'll come back to that in a second. Maria thought everything was sorted when she was invited to her citizenship ceremony a few days later. She shows up, she mentions the criminal charges, and they won't let her take part in the ceremony while her husband swore his oath. She was heartbroken.
I had to sit there listening this judge saying how all of those people deserved to get this Canadian citizenship, which means I didn't deserve it. It was very upsetting.
She'd passed the test, she'd gone through the process, but she hadn't quite crossed the finish line. So Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada said they were looking at whether the allegations against Maria would be a crime in Canada too. Meanwhile, Maria was convicted in absentia and sentenced to 8 years in a Russian prison. 7 months later, Maria gets this letter, citing the law she broke in Russia. Remember the one about spreading misinformation about the Russian army? Well, the letter says, based on the information currently available to me, it appears that you may be subject to prohibitions under the Citizenship Act.
I felt betrayed because I was hoping that I am safe here in Canada.
The law being used in Maria's case has been widely criticized as a way to just clamp down on opposition politicians and regular people. That's when Maxim Katz got involved. He's a Russian opposition politician who also has been convicted of the same crime. That's why he's living in Israel. He's also a YouTuber with an excellent studio setup. He wrote letters to the Canadian government in support of Maria.
If it's contradict to what the Department of Defense say, this is a criminal offense in Russia. So if they say that in Bucha Ukrainians killed themselves and you say that it was the Russian army that made these crimes, you're making a criminal offense in Russia.
That's when I got involved. I reached out to IRCC and got a very bureaucratic and processy answer. So I sent them another question, asking them to address how the Russian law has been widely criticized as anti-democratic. And they said, basically, they still have to review the file. I also asked the Russian embassy for comment and got no response. So we went ahead with the story, and it quickly gets picked up on social media and by other media outlets, even outside of Canada.
I didn't expect a lot from the story, to be honest. I was very happy that we did this, but then a lot of people started reaching out. Activists, journalists from Russia. I was surprised because I didn't think they would watch CBC.
Привет? Anyway, her neighbors leave her messages of support, and among those offering help was foreign security expert Wesley Ward.
And the notion that we would take seriously in Canada and try and find a Canadian equivalent to this Russian law that's designed to stamp out dissent is, to me, mind-boggling.
Then, 5 days later, Maria gets a message.
I got invited to the citizenship ceremony and I was like, that's not real. Like, that's gotta be some kind of scam.
The minister, out of the blue, posts on social media, quote, Canada's citizenship eligibility rules are designed to catch criminals, not to suppress or punish legitimate political dissent. Ms. Kartasheva will not face deportation and has been invited to become a Canadian citizen. So I gave Maria a call to get her reaction.
I didn't even know that he posted about it. So when you called, I didn't even know. And I was like, how did you know?
That's when she told me her citizenship ceremony was going ahead in just a matter of hours, with her husband Dmitry by her side.
And bear true allegiance
to His Majesty.
to His Majesty.
But that isn't all. Maria is hoping her case will help make the immigration system better for other people who've been convicted under similar laws, so they aren't forced to prove they haven't broken the law by criticizing their government. After all, that's part of why she wanted to become a Canadian.
I do hope that people will know that, there are normal countries that care about everyone, right? Even including Russian citizens that are protesting against the war, even if they are being punished for that in Russia. But I guess we should feel safer here, at least in Canada.